Kris.
Hello.
Do you like the sparkling water?
Yeah.
Is it bubbly for you?
It's bubbly. I like the carbonation.
Nice. Okay. I got another question now.
Okay.
What are your pronouns, Kris?
They, them.
Okay. All right. I don't know if you know this, Kris, but there's some people out there that think that that's ridiculous.
No, yeah, I'm well aware.
Are you?
I'm a little too aware, honestly.
Shoot. Yeah. You know, I don't know how to break this to you exactly, Kris.
Oh, okay.
But there are conservatives out there that actually like to make fun of your pronouns.
No, really?
Yes. Exhibit A. Do you know the band 3 Doors Down at all?
Not really.
Okay.
I've probably heard the name a few times, but that's about it.
They're pretty irrelevant at this point, but they were kind of big like in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they have some songs that I think are pretty decent.
Okay.
But I was on Instagram the other day, as one does.
As one does.
And Stereo Gum's account posted this picture of the guitarist, or one of the guitarists from 3 Doors Down. They used to have 2. I don't know what's going on with them, because again, irrelevant. But somebody, Pop Culture Reference, had posted this picture, and it said, "I saw 3 Doors Down open for Creed tonight." Good grief, that's a lot of air. And their guitar player had a shirt on that said, "My pronouns are f***ing Patriot." But his guitar strap covered part of the words, so it read, "My pronouns are f***ing Pat."
That's hilarious.
And sure enough, they found the picture and put it on here. And that's exactly what it says. So
Pat.
Now, look, Kris, I don't like to make assumptions, but I'm assuming in this case that this guy thinks that your pronouns are stupid.
Yeah, probably that it's made up and ridiculous and whatever else.
And that's not necessarily something that I think he only believes.
Probably not.
I know that there are a lot of other conservatives out there that think the exact same thing. In fact, I remember, it's been a little while now, but Roseanne Barr. Oh, Roseanne Barr. Do you know Roseanne Barr, Kris?
No.
Yeah, she's a little bit before your time, I think. She had a show called Roseanne. And she's a comedian. Was a comedian, still is a comedian, trying to be a comedian still, trying to just, I don't know. I think that she would consider herself to be somewhat of a thought leader in the conservative movement. Anyway, she was doing a stand-up, and I'm going to do my best Roseanne Barr impression here.
Ooh, let's hear it.
But she said, "My pronouns, my pronouns are kiss my ass."
Then you hear a banjo playing in the background.
I expected that. No, but instead there was some laughter and applause from what I can only assume is a awful, hateful conservative audience.
Ooh. Yeah, probably.
And she's just like so proud of that joke that she made, except that's the same joke that literally every conservative makes anymore. It's just like, well, my pronouns are...
They really think they're doing something.
Right. And of course, none of these things are pronouns.
No.
Patriot is not a pronoun or 2 pronouns. What's going on with the whole pronoun culture war deal up in here?
Too much, honestly.
These days?
Too much.
You think so?
Yeah.
I want to read you something here real quick. Another thing, Kris. Yet another gem that I found on Instagram. The internet's a wild place. Did you know that?
Yeah, you can find anything on the internet, really. That's why it's a wild place.
Did you know? So this is from a page called, I don't even know what this is supposed to be. QLFDMIN.
QLFD.
Quiffledemim. I don't even know what this is. This is supposed to be like a Christian account, right?
Oh, okay.
And so this caught my attention. I don't even know how I found this. It was suggested to me, I guess, somehow, some way, because unfortunately I consume a lot of cringy conservative Christian stuff. It's, I guess I'll post a link to it.
Okay.
Yeah. It says, in big bold print, should Christians use pronouns?
Oh, it's this post. Okay.
And the answer is Christians already do use pronouns.
Right. Should you?
And then in the finer print, it says, based on my notes from chapter 15 of Dr. Linda Sealer's book, Transformation, a Former Transgender Responds to LGBTQ. So, of course, that's going to be delightful.
Right.
Here's what it says. Of course, everyone uses pronouns. Oh, Hey!
Wow.
They got
At least
it.
they acknowledged it.
Are we done?
No.
Oh, no, there's still several slides, and this is still on the second one. Okay. But what this question is getting at is should a Christian refer to a biological male with she, her pronouns or a biological female with he, him pronouns? It must be tough to be a Christian.
Right. Like, these are first world problems. Wow. Imagine this being the biggest problem you have to deal with.
It says, and what about, Chris, here we go. They, them. Or ze, zim, zer. Should Christians use these pronouns when referring to people? So suddenly,
It's an extra layer. First the he, him, and she, her. And now you got the neutral ones. Too much.
Extra, I like how you put that, the extra layer. The idea of pronoun hospitality. Have you ever heard about that before, Kris? Pronoun hospitality?
No, but it seems like something that Christians would come up with.
Oh.
To be honest.
They love hospitality.
Oh, yeah. They want to act like they're hospital. Like they're hospital. Like they're being hospitable instead of being hateful, even when they are being hateful.
Okay. Well, the idea of pronoun hospitality is the idea that Christians referring to a biological male by she, her pronouns doesn't hurt anyone. I think objectively speaking, it doesn't.
I mean, it really doesn't.
But what it actually does is affirm the lie that a person born male biologically can transition into a woman, or that a person can be non-binary or gender fluid. Okay, the Bible gives no concession. The Bible.
The Bible.
The very writing that is pro-chattel slavery. It never gives a concession for a person changing their sex or switching between sexes. The third slide here. When talking to or about someone who uses non-traditional pronouns or the opposite sex's pronouns, do so carefully. Tread lightly. I added that. Dr. Seeler reminds us that names can change with culture. So you can refer to someone by their name, but you don't have to refer to them by the pronouns if you're careful.
So yes, let's, instead of being respectful to someone, let's make it difficult on you to play this little game so that you don't have to be uncomfortable using someone's pronouns.
No, they gave an example.
That's
here.
crazy. Listen
to this example. This is wild. Christians play a lot of games. This is definitely one amongst them. If a biological female introduces herself to you as Tim, a female to male transgender, you can refer to her as Tim, keeping in mind that there are girls named Jordan and boys named Kelly. This is so stupid, Kris. Okay, I'm going to keep on reading, though. But you don't have to refer to Tim as either he or she. To keep the peace, you can simply call Tim, Tim. That's Tim's car instead of that's his, her car. In this way, you can continue to build a relationship with Tim while not participating in the lie that Tim is a man. And then it wraps up and says, don't be needlessly combative. Is that not what this whole post is?
Right. This post is literally about that thing.
But when you have the opportunity, dear Christian, speak the truth of the gospel and God's design and intention of sexuality in love. Oh, Kris, it always comes back to love. Right. Their hate somehow is always love.
I love how they have this giant word hate, and I'm just seeing them kind of like strip down the words and redecorate it a little bit until it looks like love, even though everyone knows it's actually not love. And they're like, oh, look, love.
Well, I hate to burst your bubble, Kris, but they say here, it's not loving to participate in a known lie.
Except it's not a known lie. Look at the research.
They don't
You're
care
the
about
one with the lie.
There's no sources cited here. There's no research to speak of. So anyways, when we speak the truth in love, we create room for the Holy Spirit to convict our LGBTQ plus identified friends and loved ones. If we refuse to speak the truth in love and refer to them by their preferred pronouns, we hinder. There's another old band from the early 2000s. We hinder them from feeling Holy Spirit's conviction. Our compliance to the lies of gender dysphoria are not loving. Rather, it is unbiblical and supports the sexual sins of LGBTQ. Fiend. So, Kris,
yes,
this is not an uncommon take from the conservatives. I know this. You know this. Probably most, if not all of our listeners, you guys, know this.
Right.
You've seen or heard or experienced this in some way, shape, or form. And I got to tell you, Kris, Conrad Vine supports this particular Instagram post.
He would be so happy with this.
Now, he did not post it, but I want to take us back once again to the Conrad Vine video.
And we dive into the hole of the abyss.
The abyssness.
The abyssness.
And it's not your business. And once again, the video from Christians Engaged, hosted by Bunny Pounds and Ben.
Ben.
Just Ben. He was like Pele or Madonna. Christians Engaged. They're talking about, again, it's they called it the Conrad Vine on transgenderism. This is Conrad Vine's take on pronouns, and he actually says this to the cue of Bunny asking along the lines of how does a person transition. Conrad Vine says there are 4 stages of transition. The first one he starts off with is social. Is social transitioning a thing, Kris?
Yes.
Okay, good. And so he's right on that. Social, he says, this can be you changing the way that you dress.
Okay.
Using pronouns. Again, everybody uses pronouns. What is going on here? Yeah. You know what? I think today I am going to start using pronouns. Oops, I just did.
Oh, wow.
I guess I did it again. Sex segregated activities such as using specific bathrooms, playing in specific sporting leagues, expecting the use of pronouns. So now I'm going to use pronouns, but now I expect the use of certain pronouns, which, by the way, Conrad Vine says he will not do, and this should sound familiar, because he says, and I'm quoting here, a central part of healing is truth. So he's assuming that someone who is trans and using different pronouns, they need to be healed. They are sick or ill or broken, and they need the truth. What truth is that? Yeah. I don't know. God's truth, I guess. But Vine continues and he says, I would say respectfully. No, bro, there's no respect in what this man's about to say. I promise y'all this. I would say respectfully, I am going to talk to you in a truthful manner. Because if there is to be healing in what you are experiencing, there has got to be truth. So he's basically saying, I will never use your pronouns except for the ones that I deem appropriate for you.
And to that, I would say, okay, I'm never going to interact with you again. Bye.
And maybe he is okay with that. Or maybe he says that person cannot be reached. They are too far gone. The devil has them. Uh-oh. Oops.
Oh, no. Thank you.
I must be rebaptized or something. But this is his response. And so that tracks very closely with what we read on the old Insta. And I think it also tracks with 3 Doors Down, Roseanne Barr. Oh, so many of these people that just refuse to engage in this conversation about pronouns.
Right.
So, Kris, I am Justin. I am he, him, his. I've had like pretty wild success navigating.
I love that for you.
the pronoun adventure that my life apparently it needs to be at this point in 2024. How about you? How about ye, Kris? You got something to say about pronouns?
Yeah.
Pronouниes?
Pronounies.
Sounds like a delicious like potato treat.
It sounds like pierogies. That was perfect.
Thought.
Anyways, wow, okay, that was funny. I used to be fine with pronouns because, you know, there was a certain amount of time that I was using the pronouns that everyone assumed that I would use. And then I realized that I loved they, them pronouns for me. And I began the journey of trying to understand how to be not a people pleaser and have people use my pronouns and correct people and tell people and recorrect people and deal with the hate comments and deal with the negativity. Oh, it's been a whole thing. It's unfortunately a lot of work that it shouldn't be.
By the way, that's what the conservatives think for them. It would be too much work for me. to learn your pronouns.
Yes, and it's very interesting. I've had a lot of different conversations with different individuals from very different backgrounds. Some from religion, some not from religion, some from very military backgrounds where, you know, the yes ma'am, yes sir is very much ingrained in their personality. And people like that have learned how to use my pronouns. And other people like that have completely shied away from anything resembling my pronouns. So it's very interesting.
Feels great.
Right. It's very telling of the individual and how they view the world around them based on how they interact with me and my pronouns. It's very interesting.
Yeah. How, in what way?
Well, for example, I have heard probably just about every excuse in the book of why people should not have to use my pronouns, including, but not limited to,
shoot.
I just don't deal with politics.
What?
Pronouns are too political.
Okay.
I have heard people use they, them pronouns just to feel special. It's just so hard to switch to they, them pronouns. I have known person XYZ for so long as this specific pronoun, and now they want me to switch, and I will never switch because that's who they are in my head.
Wow, that's really
I've heard
terrible for you.
This person is so old, they're never going to be able to switch to your pronouns. You just have to let it go. Like and there's just been ones where people, you can tell they just want to stir the pot. They just want to make an argument. And that is fair game to have any kind of accusation or argument thrown at you. So there's been a lot. And it always seems to surprise me, even though I hear it so many times, to hear things that people will say about it, because I'm just like, hey, can you use they, them pronouns for me? Thank you. That would be great. I don't need you to be best friends with me. I don't need you to respect me. I just need you to use my pronouns because I have to do what I have to do. That's it. And some people will really try, and you can tell it's a struggle for them, but they will try their best and they'll correct themselves as much as they can. And sure, they'll make mistakes, but they're trying. Yeah. And then on the other hand, you'll see people where you can tell they're just not trying and they're stubbornly refusing to try. And that's when it's really, really infuriating. Ugh.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Go for it.
For the entire world to partake in.
Yeah.
Why do you use they, them pronouns?
So they, them pronouns, I recently read a book I'm going to bring up now. Per your recommendation, Justin, Gender Queer by Maya Kobabe.
Kris, that's a banned book. How'd you get your paws on that?
The library.
Let's go libraries.
Let's go.
Let's go libraries.
Anyways, it was a very good book. And there was this part where the main character, this is a true story. The individual was talking about how it became very hard to describe using pronouns. Maya uses E, M pronouns. So E would talk to someone about E's pronouns and the individual would get super uncomfortable, whatever. And so E would start having to describe physical pains to relate to hearing the wrong pronouns. And that's kind of the best way that I know how to describe what it feels like to have specifically she, her pronouns used for me. It just hurts. It kind of like, you know, when you like hit something really hard, like your funny bone, and it just kind of like throbs and like sends that shock wave into you. Yeah. That's kind of what it feels like. Ooh. And on the opposite end, using they, them pronouns, it feels like a warm hug. I feel so seen and heard and understood. Yeah. It's hard to explain it other than that. But the more I use they, them pronouns, and the more I hear any other pronouns used for me, the more I realize that they, them just speaks to who I am as an individual.
That's interesting. That's not my experience at all, but it also is.
Tell me.
Because I have pronouns.
Right.
He, him, his.
Yeah.
And ain't nobody out there messing those up. And most people that I have ever come across, all people, I can't think of a single time where somebody has deliberately, other than my brother, I guess. Aww. My brother, I remember this now. My brother used to misgender me. Huh. Just because he was
your brother,
a punk, you know?
I guess.
He's just like, he used to call me Shaston.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, just kind of like stupid little brother stuff, you know, that we would pick each other. And, misgendering somebody when you're a kid can be like a real dick, particularly when you grow up in like a Christian household.
Yes,
and there's
that's
like,
very important.
yeah, I mean, Christians really, really value that gender binary.
Right.
And so I'm like, I'm not a girl. And like, even back then, like a girl is like maybe one of the worst things that you could be.
Right.
I know that sounds really messed up, and it is.
It is really messed up.
It was never right.
But it's kind of the reality.
Hold on a second. Let me put a pin in that, because yesterday my wife and I watched from 1960 the Disney movie Swiss Family Robinson. Have you seen it?
Oh my gosh. I used to watch that kids show, the animated one, but I don't
Okay.
remember.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember if I ever watched the actual movie, but I watched the animated show.
Yeah, this was a live action one, and before they started playing the movie, and I think this happens for a lot of Disney Plus movies, because there are a lot of old movies on there, but they
gave you a warning.
They've got a warning that says, "Hey, look, there's going to be some things that you see here in this movie that have never been okay.
Yes.
They weren't okay back then. They're not okay today, and they never will be okay. Anyways, here's a racist movie."
Oh.
And I was like, I don't remember. Okay, so I watched, and I was like, oh yeah, there's definitely like a lot of stuff in this movie that the white person, the white male really, is the central figure, and there's white male supremacy all throughout that movie.
Oof.
It just
is. That makes sense.
And that is my personal experience. Now, obviously, I've had to do a lot of unlearning, and I've had to do a lot of educating myself in my life.
Right.
And, I'm still working on that stuff.
Yeah, of course. Learn and grow.
Okay. So, getting back to it, I've never had that issue. So, I understand all the positive things you just mentioned, and I'm not able to relate to any of the negative parts of it. And so it's really easy for me to say, Kris, what's the big deal?
Right. I get that. And, I, as much as I can, love to have conversations with individuals who are curious about trying to explain why use they, them pronouns and just kind of establish that, because that seems to help sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it isn't about making myself special or being unique or trying to be different. No, it's just because this feels the best to me.
Right.
And describes me the best way. And I do want to say, in light of basically everything we've talked about so far, and specifically the post in Conrad's Vine, the quote you quoted from him earlier, that was very repetitive. The quote from Conrad Vine earlier.
The quote you quoted when you quoted the quote.
If someone is coming to me and misgendering me, I'll speak to me specifically. I'm not going to hear their words and say, oh my goodness, they're trying to tell me the truth in God's love, and I'm going to learn how to stop using they, them pronouns. No, what's going to happen is I'm going to shut down a little bit internally because I get misgendered, and it hurts.
Yeah.
To some degree, hopefully a little less at the time than more. And I'm not going to want to respect or interact with that individual ever again. So misgendering someone with the hopes of that leading to them, that individual, to the truth, is completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I do want to come back to that later, but while you were saying that, it did make me think of something that I saw a little while back that I love, Kris, and I sent it to you, and you love it as well.
Ooh, okay.
And this is from our friend. I wish she was our friend, like, actually, that we could hang out and be buddies, I guess. Matt Bernstein.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, he
pretty cool individual.
Very cool individual. By the way, his podcast, if you're not listening to A Bit Fruity, you're messing up in your life. Do you listen to it?
Very interesting.
You listen to it, right? From time to time? Okay, so you're not messing up.
No. I think it's very interesting. I love it.
It's so good. It is so good. Shout out. But obviously, A Bit Fruity, he deals a lot in his conversations with things about the queer community, and when you do that, when you put yourself out there in a public way, you're gonna get haters. And what do haters do?
Hate.
The haters hate. And so Matt actually shared in one of his posts, and I'll put this, I guess I'll put a link to it maybe, or I'll just put it in what do I say? Yeah. Maybe our social media and our Instagram, so you can check it out. But he's having a conversation, a DM. Kris, do you get DMs?
I guess sometimes.
Okay.
People send me little memes. I like that.
Do people slide into your DMs, Kris?
No, hopefully not.
Okay, this is getting a little bit too personal, I think. We better move on. Anyway, somebody had DM'd our friend Matt, and they said they're obviously being antagonistic here. They're obviously not happy with the stuff that Matt is sharing. They say, the is they, in quotes, right? They. Why do you force this shit on people? And this person, if you look at their profile picture, and I guess Matt probably went to their profile and saw that this is a man. And so Matt's response is, okay, girl, be calm. And this guy comes back and Matt says, not a girl. And Matt just writes back, So they get it suddenly.
Right.
They get it, but they don't get it. They get it when it happens to them, but they're not willing to reciprocate that to somebody else. Rights for me, not for thee.
Right. It seems like there's a disconnect between what individuals think are obvious pronouns that should be used and right pronouns that should be used, and ones that are not quote unquote right or obvious. Being used incorrectly.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is if you have a cis man or cis woman getting misgendered with what they would consider the opposite sex for them, for that individual. So a man, girl. I mean, they're going to get kind of upset. And for them, I feel like there seems to be this is obvious that I'm a man. So like, obviously it's upsetting that you're calling me a woman because I'm a man. But then there's like a disconnect between that and someone who uses they, them pronouns like I do being called a man because they're like, well, obviously you're not they, them, whatever that means. So it doesn't matter if you get misgendered, but it matters if I get misgendered.
Yeah.
But they also have the idea there. So they're so close. So close.
Yeah. And the funny thing about they, them pronouns is this is nothing new, for one.
No.
People have been using they, them to describe a singular individual of any gender, really, for the longest time now.
Right.
And that's something that I have always done in the past.
Me too. There you go.
So I'm going to share another one of my favorite internet moments in regards to pronouns. This is from a person, and I'll post this on the Instagram so you can check it out. Swing on by. Give us a like, please. Thirsty.
Stop.
This is from Conservative Self-Owns.
Oh, that's funny.
And they are sharing from an account called Yes We Homeschool at Yes to Homeschool, a Twitter handle. This, and it looks like a traditional woman.
Okay.
There. And this woman says, any English teacher who uses they, them as a singular pronoun should lose their teaching license.
Ha, 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 ha. You lose.
I mean,
right. Like
I don't even know what to say at this point. Is this willful ignorance? Or what is this, Kris?
I don't know. I mean, I do, but I don't. It's interesting to see, and I feel like a lot of times what comes to happen is as soon as someone starts using pronouns that are different than what people view you as, it gets uncomfortable because now it takes you correcting yourself and practicing a little bit and thinking in a new way. And a lot of people don't like doing that. And I mean, I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but in my experience, a lot of it is fear-based because people seem to be really stressed and worried that they're going to get canceled or people are going to get mad at them if they accidentally misgender someone, or now they're concerned that they have to be on the alert all the time.
Can we actually talk about that real quick? Put a pin in it, because I do want to come back to the whole thing about fear. So let's not forget to do that.
Okay.
But I do want to ask, and I want to ask you specifically.
Okay.
Because it does interest me. It intrigues me, if you will. because I've heard this often in talking with individuals that are just their stance on it is, I don't want this to be a thing, because if it is, then I'm going to feel more like social pressure to get somebody's pronouns right. Yeah. Say the individual who is checking me out. Well, you know what I mean. They're ringing you up. Ringing you up. There we go. That's probably a better way of saying it. At the grocery store, maybe you're afraid that you are going to use the wrong pronouns, and therefore we should just do away with the whole conversation. So like I guess my question to you is, because you do use they them pronouns and you engage and interface with a wide variety of people, right, everywhere from people that are very close to you, family members, all the way to people that you will only see ever once in your life. Can you describe your expectations in regards to like who's using your pronouns and like how that makes you feel?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you. I worked real hard on it. I think I spent like 3 minutes setting it up.
I could see the wheels churning.
Oh, the wheels were churning.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so this is for me specifically. I just want to make that a note because as I've said before, I can't speak for everyone.
Okay.
Just as a note.
We accept that.
All right, so for me, I know that people don't like using they them pronouns in general. Not everyone, obviously, but a lot of people do not feel comfortable with they them pronouns. So my expectations differ depending on the relationship I have with the individual.
Okay.
So in preparation for this, I kind of was looking through what my level of being hurt, being misgendered goes by depending on the relationship. And I feel like the most hurtful ways that I can be misgendered are from someone that I have a close relationship with, and those individuals just don't even try. Like, you can tell there's no intention of using my pronouns. There's no intention of trying to learn or understand why I use they them pronouns. It's just ignorant or hateful comments. Not comments. Whatever the reason behind it is, these individuals will not try. And that hurts the most. So, for example, if I have like a family member that refuses to use my pronouns, that really stings because I love those individuals. They've known me for a really long time. And while I understand that it can be difficult, I would think that their love for me would be strong enough to try to make me feel comfortable. And when it doesn't, that really sucks. The relationship ends, and honestly, mostly because of the other person not trying to meet me in the middle. Like, come on. Which
we can all understand. Like, every single human being on this planet and beyond can understand that. What it means to be, and I think it's more than disrespectful. I'll just say disrespected, but like dishonored.
Right. Like, and that's why when people interact with me and I tell them my pronouns and they're like, I can tell they get really nervous about it. Yeah. I'm like, hey, like, as long as you're trying, I can see that. I can feel the difference, and I appreciate that. So even when people misgender me and I have a relationship with them, if they're trying, it feels different.
There's like a spirit of love
there.
Okay.
Because you can tell, like, oh, like, they messed up a couple times here and there, but usually they'll correct themselves. Or if I mention it, they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, and then correct it.
They're good faith actors.
Yes. Like, they're trying to make me feel comfortable. Whether that means they like actually want to engage with me as an individual, or they're just doing this so that I don't feel uncomfortable. I don't care. At least they're being respectful. And then you have people at the like a lower level would be strangers, people I have no relationship with at all. They just see me interacting with me, whether that's their job or they're just trying to be nice as they pass me on the street. They don't know who I am. I don't expect strangers to be thinking about the intricacies of gender as they're walking down the street and identify me correctly because they don't know me. That's
that makes sense. That's pretty reasonable, Kris.
Does it hurt? Yes. I'm not going to lie and say that doesn't make me a little bit sad. But at the same time, I don't expect that from an individual. And if I don't know them or form a relationship with that person, they have not reached a point where they're trying to hurt me because they don't know me. I feel like people kind of think that everyone who uses they them pronouns, just for example, is going to get pissed off every single time they get misgendered and go on a rampage and like fight everyone.
Right. It's not happening.
No.
That's not happening. There's no, I'm sure it happens
it happens
every once in a while, right? But that's not good, I would say. That's not like a great way of handling anything, right?
Exactly.
You don't want to be fighting people. Come on.
No.
But here's the secret. You ready for the secret?
Yes.
It's all made up.
What?
He, him is all made up.
Yeah.
She, her. It's all of this stuff is made up.
Right. It's just words to describe someone.
Ever since the beginning of man, however it is that you think that occurred, we've just been making stuff up to fit whatever the interactions are.
You know what's so funny is I feel like people also think that only using correct pronouns will... Let me rephrase. I think that a lot of people believe that using they, them pronouns, different pronouns than you believe should be used for an individual only applies to trans and non-binary people. But that's not true. So I have had a lot of jobs over the course of my life. And one of them, I worked in the nutrition department at a hospital.
Actually seasoned.
Yeah, for real. It's funny. So what that meant for me was I would go into rooms and I would take patients' orders as they were sick and help them work through their diet or whatever and bring them their food. So I did interact with a lot of people that I never really had the time or length of working to develop relationships with them. And there were definitely scenarios where I would walk into a room and I would make the wrong assumption about what gender the person was or what name I should use for the individual because, you know, they're sick. And a lot of times when you look sick, you don't, you know, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes, especially as you get older and you get sick. So I had experiences where family members would be like, actually, and I felt terrible. Like I felt terrible every time this happened. Yeah. But all it took was I'm sorry, I apologize, and doing better. And that's all it was. So one, I'm saying this because even people who, you know, coming from someone who uses they, them pronouns, I have made plenty of mistakes and I still have to learn a lot. And two, it doesn't apply to just trans, non-binary people. It applies to cis people too.
Yeah.
So everyone should be using it and learning how to be more respectful because we want to be better humans to everyone. I mean, if nothing else, the conversation about pronouns, I just wish people understood that for the most part, like maybe it happens once in a blue moon, but people aren't using pronouns to make your life difficult. They're not using pronouns to try and be special.
As a general rule, no.
No, as a general rule. Like, sure, maybe it happens once in a blue moon, but again, in general, no.
And again, we want to have a good faith conversation. You can always find that exception. Do not make the exception the rule.
Yes,
Conservatives have to do that because they need it.
Because they need the example.
They gotta have it because it's not happening.
No, but it's not about making yourself special or being different. It's about trying to be comfortable in your skin.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
And it sucks when people are like getting mad at me for having they, them pronouns or expecting me to educate them. And like, I love that. And I love having conversations. Don't get me wrong, but it does make it hard sometimes. Like it's difficult.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's actually provide some let's cite some sources real quick.
Yes,
let's just
make
do a
change.
little housekeeping here as far as our facts are concerned, because I do want to as we're ending this, I just do want to point out that there has been scientific work done on this. These are not just opinions of mine or Kris. This isn't your anecdotal experience. Exactly. I mean, it is, but but it goes far beyond that, right?
Right.
So I'm going to include in the show notes some links from different organizations such as the American Occupational Therapy Association, which is going to talk about affirming gender identity and pronouns. I need to get back up on this mic here. The LGBTQIA Resource Center as well. And then NPR has an article here that I'm going to include. And just a couple things I want to say. And then, Kris, maybe we'll get your reaction.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yes.
Okay. This is from the NPR article. And this quote from the NPR article is from Mary Emily O'Hara, who is whom?
A communications officer at GLAAD.
Okay, perfect. And they said, so for example, using the correct pronouns for trans and non-binary youth. So we're talking youth here, which, by the way, Conrad Vine is specifically attacking.
Right.
amongst others, is a way to let them know that you see them, you affirm them, you accept them, and to let them know that they are loved during a time when they're really being targeted by so many discriminatory anti-trans state laws and policies.
Right.
Then O'Hara continues, they, as the pronoun, is already commonly used as a singular pronoun when we are talking about someone and we don't know who they are, O'Hara notes. Using they, them pronouns for someone you do not know simply represents just a little bit of a switch. What O'Hara is articulating here is something that you've already said, Kris, but I just want to mention that it's coming from experts, right?
Right.
That when you use somebody's pronouns, it gives life.
It really does. It can be life-saving in some situations. Like there are reports done about how to help people, non-binary and trans youth specifically, decrease suicidality. And one of them is using their pronouns.
Yeah, in fact, let's even read here a little bit from the American Occupational Therapy Association. This is great. And they have actually a whole list of different pronouns out there that do exist. So
I really like that.
Yeah, and you all can go and check those out. And it's, just get educated on the subject. But they even have a table here that is entitled, What is Misgendering? And the definition says, to refer to a person by a pronoun or other gendered term that incorrectly indicates that person's gender identity or is otherwise inappropriate for or offensive to them. And the impact that misgendering has, they've listed several consequences here. So psychological distress, feelings of being stigmatized, anxiety, depression, stress due potentially getting misgendered or non-affirmed in their identity, internalized transphobia if a transgender person wants their transitional status to go undetected.
Yeah.
Negative effect on function and mental health, occupational alienation. And so these are all things that if you're a straight cis individual, you don't want to experience.
No.
If the studies are showing and the experts are saying when you use somebody's pronouns correctly, you can relieve them of these things.
Right.
And it just is wild to me that somebody that calls himself a Christian looks and says, nah, no thanks. What are we doing here, folks?
Right.
What is going on? We can make the world a better place.
Right.
Simply, in some cases, by just using somebody's pronouns.
And even if you don't believe in someone's pronouns or the quote unquote lifestyle that they're choosing, please just still use them.
Okay, Kris, I think that we have did it. I would urge everybody listening out there, and I think Kris would do the same. Just please try to be a good person.
Right.
Just please try to be someone that is willing to give respect and honor to another individual, even if it's not your experience or even if you don't necessarily understand it.
And I would say also, to add on to that, don't be so afraid of making mistakes as long as you're trying and learning. That's what's important.
Just learn.
People can typically tell the difference between someone who's trying and someone who refuses to try. But
according to you, that makes an entire
makes a difference.
Yeah. Okay. So again, let's bring life to people instead of the opposite of that, which would be
being hateful.
Being hateful. Yep. Time to end with a joke
with our comical jokester Justin.
So we've been talking about pronouns today.
Okay.
Should I look up pronouns jokes? That's probably
a bad idea.
That's probably going to be pretty awful.
It's probably going to be I identify as a attack helicopter.
Yeah.
I remember that. That was terrible. Oh my
that's
gosh.
Not a thing.
People be nice, please.
Here we go. This is from boardpanda.com. 24 of the funniest language jokes and puns. I'm going to click on that and see what happens.
Ooh, I like puns.
Oh, it's like a panda, a smaller panda, and an even smaller yet black cat in the woods. That's the graphic. That's the banner for this.
2 pandas and a black cat?
Yeah.
Sounds like a beginning of a joke right there.
Okay, here we go. Joke. A linguistics professor was lecturing in his English class one day. In English, he said, a double negative forms a positive. In such languages, though, such as Russian, a double negative is still a negative. However, there is no language in which a double positive can form a negative. A voice from the back of the room piped up, yeah, right.
I love sarcasm.
Slay.
Sarcasm.
Slate 'em. Slate 'em. All right. Bengals, Giants tonight. Who you got? Sunday Night Football? Hooday Nation. Please just win a game.
Hooday, the bed. I'm going to bed. Woo.
Please just win a game.
Poor Justin.